You're watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.
Today we're breaking down the Supreme Court's recent ruling on President Trump's tariff policy and what it could mean for small and mid-sized businesses. Joining us is Steve Cotton, a financial strategist with more than 48 years of experience across investments, business, government, and public affairs. He's also the president of Cotton Wealth Management Associates. Steve brings a well-rounded perspective on how this legal decision may affect costs, supply chains, and the broader economic outlook for business owners. So for viewers who may be confused by the headlines, what the Supreme Court essentially is saying in this ruling about the president's use of emergency powers. Talk to us about that, Steve.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me on today. It's an interesting ruling. There were two thoughts about how the court might rule going into this last week. One thought was that if the court interprets the International Emergency Economic Powers Act as basically a trade policy instrument, they would find in Trump's favor. Mm-hmm. However, an alternative argument was if they found that tariffs were basically a form of taxation, that's the purview of the Congress and might find against the president. And in fact, that's what they did. They did the latter. The right. Supreme Court interpreted it more as a tax policy issue than a trade policy issue, but it failed to speak to the issue of refunds, and that's what's got everybody confused.
That's right. That's right. Does this decision mean the tariffs could go away, or is it the situation more complicated than that?
Well, Jim, I think you're right. I think it's more complicated than that, and let me tell you why. On the one hand, in earlier court cases, the administration said that it would issue refunds if the court found against them. Mm-hmm. And then the president came out upon the ruling last week, came out and said, no, we're going to levy a 10% tariff on all of our trading partners. No, it's going to be 15%. And the administration is not talking about refunds.
Yeah.
There are some analysts, and I'm in that corner, that believe the administration will look for a way to avoid doing any refunds because it's going to be tremendously complex. And the court did not speak to refunds. Therefore, the administration could take the position that it may not use IEEPA going forward as the law to justify tariff policy, but it's not required to issue refunds. And I think that's where the administration will come down.
Yeah. So there are other legal avenues the administration could use to continue or reshape tariff policy. And why is that such an important battle for for President Trump?
Well, the use of tariffs and trade policy to force our trading partners to be more fair with our producers and our small businesses, he's on the right side of that issue. And it's an issue that's been unaddressed for 40 years, while we've seen industries and businesses sucked out of this country. Mm-hmm. And he is trying to rectify a dramatic wrong that has been done to us over decades. The president is a business person, and he focuses on how do we solve problems.
Yeah.
The court is a court of lawyers, and the trade ministries are bureaucrats, and they look at things differently than an executive does. But the Trade Act of 1974 is one of three instruments that the president could use mm-hmm. to continue to pursue the trade policy, but it's problematic because it's very process heavy, it's cumbersome, and it's also not permanent. It is more short-term fix. So the administration's got its homework to do, and it's not clear which statutes they're going to actually use to try to continue the president's policies.
Right, right. You did mention that the president is a businessman and a shrewd negotiator. However, there's a lot of business owners out there that would differ with you and say he's hurting our business right now. And these tariffs, and certainly the uncertainty that surround the tariffs, is not a good thing for either our business or the economy as a whole, which is what we're seeing right now. Is it kind of just everybody should take a deep breath and try to get through these times to see what happens in the long run? Or what's your recommendation?
Well, I think we are going to have to take a deep breath. I think it's going to take time for this to sort itself out. For one thing, the administration is debating internally about how to proceed.
Yeah.
and it hasn't formulated, the president's a little bit ahead of the bureaucratic and trade policies. But I think if I were a small business person, I would do, and many of our small businesses have already been trying to diversify their resource base.
Yeah.
They've been trying to shift to American manufactured products and supplies. The smart business people have already made these changes in anticipation of impact to tariffs. Now, the tariff did not have the impact in across the board as some feared it would.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a lot of the exporters have paid the tariff. A lot of the importers have paid the tariff.
Mm-hmm.
In very few cases have these tariffs been passed on to the end consumer.
Right.
But that may not always be the case.
That's right.
As long as this goes forward.
Sure.
But I really think small businesses, number one, should not rely on getting a refund anytime soon.
No.
And number two, should harden their businesses against the potential impact of tariffs, and should diversify their resources, their supply chains. That's what the smart business people are doing that are able to do it. Now, not everybody's able to do it,
right?
But that's the smart play if you're a business entrepreneur.
Yeah, no question. How much of an impact will it have if the Republicans lose the House and the Senate in the midterms? Now, with it looking like the Congress has got a little bit more weight to carry in this particular decision from the Supreme Court, it seems as though the president's going to have to be consulting with them before he steps up.
Well, Jim, you're exactly right. The administration could come forward with legislation tomorrow morning to fix this and address what the Supreme Court said the president could not do under EPA. That would be the quickest solution, the most sure solution, because, using the Trade Act of 1974, Section 122, and the other tools and instrumentalities available to it is going to be a lot more cumbersome.
Sure.
But if the Republicans lose the House, they will have a lot tougher slog trying to get legislation passed that will benefit small business, that will benefit business in general.
Yeah.
That it'll be a much more difficult task, because the Democrats do not seem to be in mind to compromise on much of anything. And I think in some cases they've really been neglectful of the urgent needs of the small business community.
Yeah, I would agree. I've spoken to a number of small business owners across the country, and the uncertainty is what's getting to them, and it's also affecting their consumer base, their customer base, where people don't want to pull the trigger right now on either big, large orders or small, and it's affecting their bottom line. And it's caused by this uncertainty that's caused by the tariff situation. Let me ask you this: if when Trump leaves the White House, if in the event that a Democrat goes into becomes the next president, could these also go away? I mean, is this something that could happen by the stroke of a pen by a Democratic president that comes in and says, "Hey, I'm not Donald Trump. I don't believe in this approach. We're going to do away with this"?
Yes, it could. The trade policy is the purview of the president, the chief executive. And the president, any president, can issue executive orders, can issue the Federal Trade Administration, the Department of Agriculture, Commerce Department, to make all kinds of changes. And I hope the Democrats will resist the temptation to just eliminate everything President Trump did on the trade or business front.
Yeah.
Because frankly, he's put a lot of things in place that are going to help small business, help big business, help American companies.
That's right.
In international trade. And I think to arbitrarily throw the baby out with the bathwater is bad policy. I think ultimately it's bad politics, but we have got to have policymakers that listen to our small business community, because 70% of the American economy is based on small business.
That's right.
Not big business.
That's right.
And we need to remember that.
That's no question about it. And you are talking right now to that audience of individuals out there that are going to their businesses and their companies that they've built every day and trying to figure this whole thing out. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us and helping us make sense of a complicated issue that directly impacts business owners across the country. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.